him to be my daddy.
Kwame Kilpatrick there paying tribute to his father the day he resigned from office.
Bernard Kilpatrick played a huge role in his son's rise to power, and the feds say he cashed in on Kwame Kilpatrick's election.
7 Action News investigator Bill Proctor joins us now. And Bill, Bernard Kilpatrick was known for much more than just a lot of flashy style and catchy nicknames.
Bernard Kilpatrick often referred to his son Kwame as Michael Corleone, mobster from the movie The Godfather. And if Kwame is Michael Corleone, Bernard's critics say he always wanted to be the Godfather. In the audience for that first historic inaugural speech was proud Papa Bernard Kilpatrick, standing ready to embrace the words of Detroit's new mayor.
Everyone is allowed to participate in the progress and prosperity of this city.
So did Bernard Kilpatrick expect to personally prosper? For years, rumors swirled among businessmen to reporters who covered the city about contractors and how they had to go through Bernard's now defunct consulting company, Maestro Associates.
We would ask them to come on TV and tell us about it so we could do a story. None of them would do it. They were all afraid of retaliation.
Reporters say contractors told them off the record they feared that if they did go public, it would kill any chance of doing business with the city. It was soon after his son took office that Bernard left his job working for Wayne County to start Maestro Associates. Inside Suite 1300 in downtown Detroit's Penobscot building is where Bernard Kilpatrick established the address for Maestro, but we understand he was seldom here doing any business. The feds allege Bernard took in more than $600,000 in cash gifts and private jet trips to exotic places, and then failed to pay income taxes on most, if not all of it. Bernard would not talk to 7 Action News for this story, but in a previous interview, he denied charges that he took bribes from contractors.
Bribes? How can they bribe me? I don't work for the city. I'm a private businessman, a consultant.
But a group of black businessmen, members of AMO, the African American Men's Organization, wrote checks to support Kwame's election after Bernard asked them, his fellow members, for help. But they all felt that the young Kilpatrick's election would lead to a better Detroit. Some, like Larry Mongo, say the opposite happened and that Bernard was expecting to do big business with white companies with Kwame in office. Mongo told 7 Action News that Bernard put it rather bluntly.
Now that he won, we'll get all the white money we want.
So who will the federal government bring to show in their case that Bernard Kilpatrick was a conduit for city bribes? Well, in January of 2009, Bernard told 7 Action News he really wasn't worried about that.
Rats coming out the woodpile talking stuff now. The majority of people in this town know that the Kilpatricks have served this community.
And what we know now, Carolyn, is that Bernard Kilpatrick eventually closed his consulting business and he lost his condo to foreclosure.
Now, undoubtedly, this trial is going to cost a lot of money, so a lot of people want to know who's going to pay for Bernard Kilpatrick's defense.
Unfortunately, it appears to be the taxpayers who will foot this bill.
Wow, big money. All right, thank you so much, Bill. Stephen?
The only one whose defense is not costing the taxpayers is Bobby Ferguson. And this isn't the first time he's faced legal trouble. 7 Action News investigator Ross Jones is here right now. And Ross, Bobby Ferguson has a bit of a reputation for playing rough.
He certainly does, Stephen. Bobby Ferguson has said no to lots of requests for interviews, and he's made it hard for reporters to even find him. Well, for this story, he found us.
How are you feeling right now going to trials?
If you're wondering why Kwame Kilpatrick's been smiling lately, it may well be because of the man to his right. His friend Bobby Ferguson's already gone to war with the feds, and he's still standing. Kilpatrick's hoping to pull off the same feat. The duo have been friends for more than a decade, and starting Thursday, they'll be braving the feds together. For Bobby Ferguson, courtrooms are nothing new. When he was a teenager, he was charged for beating a man in the head with a baseball bat outside a sports bar. DUI and firearm charges litter his lengthy rap sheet. By the time he was only 35, Ferguson had been arrested 12 times.
Our transition team worked very diligently, led by Bobby Ferguson and Frank Torrey.
That's Kilpatrick at his first inauguration. Right from the start, the new mayor was tapping Ferguson to help demolish more than 5,000 Detroit homes. The feds say Ferguson had unprecedented access to the mayor's office. Even so, in this 2006 deposition, Ferguson was cagey when asked if he and Kilpatrick were friends, dodging even his own lawyer's question.
But if you can answer yes or no whether you and the mayor are friends. I know the man.
Ferguson cleaned up on city contracts under Kilpatrick, and text messages show that he, the mayor, and their friend, Chief of Staff Christine Beatty, strategized on how to get Ferguson even more. Why not Bobby in this? Beatty asked Kilpatrick. Bobby wants to strategically lose a major bid, he responded. City contractors complained that the fix was in at City Hall.
It was the hottest rumor going, but it was very difficult to pinpoint.
Difficult to pinpoint because contractors were afraid to speak publicly. One called me in 2005 saying he'd been awarded excavation work for the city. But at the last minute, he got a call telling him to leave the job site. Bobby Ferguson, he was told, would do the job instead. The Fed's first crack at Ferguson ended in a mistrial because of one holdout juror. But he wasn't so lucky years earlier. He pled guilty in 2005 to pistol whipping one of his employees. The attack put Ferguson in jail for 10 months. Today's federal charges carry a much longer sentence this time around. He's hired 3 high-powered criminal lawyers looking to make his record against the feds a perfect 2 for 2.
At the end of the day, we're confident that we're going to be able to defend against those allegations and that our client is going to be found not guilty.
But if there's anyone he hates more than the government, it's still the media. When we were shooting video outside his office for this story, Ferguson stopped by, demanding to know why we were there.
I gave folks jobs and opportunity. I gave them something to believe in. Yeah. Y'all took that from me, not me.
When you say us, you mean the media?
Yeah. Y'all made me a criminal. I wasn't a criminal before then.
He left without saying more than just a few words, but he had confidence to spare. Before leaving, he gave me a tap on the cheek, laughed, and walked away. Ferguson is facing 19 criminal charges, and despite his lengthy rap sheet, his lawyers insist he's a good Christian man devoted to his family.
And that leaves the man who's considered the wild card in all of this, former Water Department head Victor Mercado. 7 Action News investigator Scott Lewis is here now, and Scott, Mercado is threatening to drop some pretty big bombshells in this trial, right?
That's what he says in court records, Carolyn. He also portrays himself as an outsider who has not profited a penny from this alleged criminal enterprise. Victor Mercado is the least known of the 4 defendants and maybe the most interesting from a legal perspective. Feds claim the former Water and Sewer Department director was knee-deep in the pay-to-play scheme, fleecing taxpayers by helping to rig bids on multi-million-dollar water and sewer contracts. Some of those contracts went to Kilpatrick's pal, Bobby Ferguson. But here's the rub. The feds don't have any evidence that Mercado ever got a dime in kickbacks. The feds say his motivation was to hang on to his salary, which at its peak was $240,000. Under the powerful federal racketeering statute known as RICO, it doesn't matter whether Mercado profited. All prosecutors have to show is that he was a willing participant in the alleged conspiracy, even if he didn't get any kickbacks. On the other hand, defense attorneys could paint Mercado as an innocent pawn who was just following his boss's orders, hoping jurors will have sympathy for him. In a text message, Bernard Kilpatrick referred to Mercado as the new Hispanic, which could suggest he was not part of the inner circle. All of the big players in the public corruption case, Kilpatrick, his dad, and Bobby Ferguson, were the targets of numerous investigative reporters' news stories long before they were indicted. Mercado was on the media's radar screen too, but not as much as the others.
Were you surprised when Victor Mercado ended up in the group?
I'm not sure I was surprised. Victor was always an interesting man to us as well, because he pretty much packed up his bags and left overnight during the middle of all these investigations, and we always wondered why. I think we're about to find out why.
In these court records, Mercado's defense attorneys paint him as an unwitting victim. They tried unsuccessfully to have him tried separately. They say his supposed role was so small compared to the others, he would be tainted in front of the jury. So how strong is the government's case against Victor Mercado?
Until people actually testify, you see the witnesses, you gauge their credibility, you see the exhibits that are admitted, it's very tough to indicate or to guess what kind of strength or lack of strength the government might have.
Kilpatrick and Ferguson could be worried about what Mercado might say. Both filed motions agreeing that Mercado should have a separate trial.
It's the interview you won't see anywhere else.
I don't think that's any of the city's business.
Scott Lewis in Texas with new information on the mayor's lavish lifestyle. Coming up next.